Hey everyone, it's Ben. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Ben's MicroVision podcast, a podcast for information and entertainment purposes only, not financial advice podcast. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about MicroVision, which is my favorite company in the world. And I'm going to talk about why I love the company, why I think its prospects are good, what's special about the technology, share some stories from a few years back, and basically try to shine a light on why this is such a interesting company operating in a very interesting space in the market. So those of you who don't know, MicroVision has a core technology that combines lasers with a tiny mirror called a MEMS mirror. And what they do is they steer the mirror extremely fast back and forth and up and down. And they have different configurations, some with a single mirror and some with two mirrors that they control sort of together. And the laser beams are turned on and off, and then they hit the mirror, which is directing the beam across the field of view. And if you're using red, green, and blue lasers, which are visible spectrum, the reflection off of the MEMS mirror creates a projected image that either can go into your retina to create a augmented reality type display, or it could go onto a surface to create a projection display, or it could go onto a pane of glass, also reflected back to your eye to create a head-up display for your car. If you use an infrared laser and you have a detector inside the system, you can use it to create lidar, which essentially maps an area with 3D points that tell you exactly what is the distance from where you're at, or where the sensor is at, to the object in 3D space. So if a camera takes a 2D image, this is taking a 3D image, and it can sense how far away any given object is that's within the span of the sweeping mirror. So it's very elegant and effective technology for both image capture in the case of lidar and image display in the case of projection displays or embedded projection inside of a pair of eyewear. So it's a fascinating company, and the technology and logic and algorithms that are used to control the lasers and to control the mirrors is very elegant stuff. And it's been in the works for more than 30 years that the company's been in business. So a lot of time, a lot of R&D has gone into making all of this technology, which is now very, very miniaturized. And a lot of money has gone into making this all possible over the course of a few decades now. And it's my belief that the market segments that the company is targeting, the overall environment is about to become very conducive to what the company has to offer. So I think it's an exciting time for the company and for people who follow the company. And so the goal of my podcast here is to present information as best I can about what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on with technology, what's going on for the customers of the technology, information about market segments, competitors, technology, and the worldwide opportunity for the company as I see it. Okay, so some of you may be asking, what do you know about any of this? And that's a great question. The story so far is that back in the year 1999 or so, I came upon a book by Ray Kurzweil called The Age of Spiritual Machines. And in this book, Kurzweil describes the exponential growth and progress of technology as he sees it. sort of a Moore's Law type of thing that he applied to not just semiconductors, but every other type of thing, whether it's wireless bandwidth or data storage capacities or anything like that. And so in the book, he describes sort of the world of 2009, right? And this was written in the late 90s. And in the world of 2009, cables are disappearing, everything's wireless. People are interacting with the internet through glasses that steer a laser beam onto your retina using an embedded projection display, specifically from a company called MicroVision. This is the first time I heard of this. And I thought the presentation of the book was so compelling. And he gets into what happens, 100 years from now, which is wild. And the whole term, the singularity and all that stuff, either he coined it or he was among the first people to be talking about it. And I just thought, this guy seems to believe that in 10 years, people are going to be walking around with MicroVision eyewear displays connected to the internet. And I thought, okay, that sounds pretty amazing. So what is this company, MicroVision? So I was, maybe 25 years old or so at that time. And I started looking into it, and I just became really kind of fascinated with what they were doing and their approach and how it was different than flat panels. If you think about a flat panel, it occupies physical space. The pixels are fixed in place on the substrate, and it's kind of like you have a phone. Here's your phone. It's so big by so wide, etc. And in order to create the image, you have to have the physical space associated with it. Whereas the MicroVision technology wasn't like that. It was like you could have a very, very big image produced by a very, very tiny set of lasers and a mirror. And I just thought, this is probably going to win the day eventually. And so that's really what began my journey. And along the way, I did a lot of research. I was fascinated by what was going on at the company. This was, 2001, 2002. I was talking with, the investor relations people, just like trying to learn as much as I could, about what they were doing. So my conviction and passion for the company and what they were doing became sort of stronger and more resolved. So I started, my MicroVision blog back in the year 2004, which is hard to believe, but it's 21 years ago now. And on this blog, which you can go and read, and I'll link below, I would keep track of what was happening in the technology marketplace and the world that I thought would create the underpinnings for this world of the future where everybody wore MicroVision glasses to connect to the internet. And so that would include things like cloud computing, advancing wireless networking, data storage, everything that is required to create those types of services, battery density, whatever. And so I write post after post, chronicling what the company was doing and the other stuff that was happening that I felt created the infrastructure that the company's technology would sit on top of. So along the way, I decided I would move from where I was, which was in the San Francisco Bay Area, up to the Seattle area, in the hopes that maybe one day, I could actually work at the company. I don't know. I just got kind of one-track minded about what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was get a job at MicroVision, because as I saw it, I didn't want to just sit and write about what other people were doing. I wanted to be one of the people doing it. And so I moved up to Washington. I got a job working for Expedia in their business intelligence and data warehousing group. So this was about 2005. And along the way, I got an email from one of the people at MicroVision, and it said, Alex Tokman wants to meet you. I was like, this is great. So he had taken over as a CEO, I think in 2006, or maybe 2005. And I came to learn that he had been reading this blog and thought that some of the things I was saying, were on target, or at least my passion for the company was coming through in a way that was compelling enough for him to want to spend some time with me. So, I was like, this is amazing. And so we got together and we met, and we had bagels in the morning, and I would share my opinion about where I felt the company could go and what the opportunities looked like. And he would let me know the kind of realities on the ground about what the real level of effort that it would take to create this vision that I had and that he also shared. And we created a relationship. And after a few months of getting together and talking over bagels, he asked me if I would, talk to some more people at the company and basically interview with more folks. So I got to talking with a few other people that were, in the management team and directors of the different groups, and basically just tried to build my relationship with those folks. And eventually, I won enough people over that he felt comfortable bringing me in. And so it was a thrill of a lifetime, really, because there I was. I think I had just turned 30. Maybe it was 31. And I was living my dream of working for MicroVision. And so a short time after I joined, they moved me into the global product manager for wearable displays role. My evangelism for the company and the technology, and I guess my ability to communicate the ideas were compelling enough to the management that they felt like I would be able to carry the torch for this technology and help the company grow and achieve some of the stuff that I had been talking about. So, this was the thrill of a lifetime kind of stuff. And I have a lot of stories from that time that are pretty interesting. But the first thing that come to mind is really the quality of the people that were there at the time. People in the engineering department, people in the marketing group, people in the executive team. Everybody was really hardworking, focused, dedicated, committed, completely brilliant, especially when you talk about engineering. So I just had, so much respect for everybody there and what they were doing. And, I'm not a scientist, right? I'm just a guy who's really passionate about the market and the technology and what could be. So, for me, it was like, if I hang around with these geniuses, I'm going to get a little of it from osmosis. And I don't think that really happened exactly, but it was a real thrill anyway for me to be able to be there and be on the ground with those guys and try to make some things happen. So, we had some successes. We got a contract with the U.S. Air Force to develop technology for eyewear displays. We got some contracts from various other DoD affiliated companies to help basically fund maturation and development of the technology. I was there when the first substrate guided relay optic mated with a laser scanning projector came into being. And that patent, I'll try to find, and maybe I can link below. And it's just basically the thrill of my life. So, as it happened, the market and the technology didn't necessarily come together at the right time to facilitate a big win for MicroVision in the eyewear space. I ended up working on some laser projection stuff for a little while, and then the company was having trouble, and they riffed like half the company. And so after almost 5 years there, I got riffed, and I had to find something else. So I ended up going to Microsoft, and then I went to eBay, and I've been working, so it's all been fine. So that covers a slice of time from 2006 to 2011 when I left. So throughout that, and in the time since, I've stayed close to it, and I've been very interested and remain supportive as a shareholder and a sort of concerned individual about the company and the market and everything. So, sometimes when people get let go from a company or are part of a mass riff, they can be really bitter and hold a grudge, but that's not the case with me. I remain a steadfast advocate and supporter for the company and what they're doing. So I've been able to continue to watch the company, and then when Sumit took over in 2020, it was obviously like tough times. The stock price was very low. The previously planned product around interactive projection display, customer bailed at the last minute and left them high and dry and all this stuff. So it's an interesting thing because for all the promise of the technology, it just hasn't clicked with the right customer and the right market opportunity and the product coming together all at once. But I think that just like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football, I think it's actually probably getting close to that time. And I'll talk a little bit about why I think that. So when Sumit took over, they had already done the Hollolens contract. And basically, for those of you who don't know, Microsoft contracted with MicroVision to produce a laser scanning projection display engine that would be embedded into what became the Hollolens 2. And when they did that, they didn't necessarily want to give MicroVision credit for the contribution to the product, right? Where without the MicroVision product, the thing would do nothing, right? You'd have a goggle on your head with nothing. So, maybe I was naive, but I felt that when the product came out, the HoloLens 2, I guess that's 2018, 2019, that MicroVision would be given credit and MicroVision would take its place in the market as the innovator for augmented reality technology, as the number one engine that's going to drive the future. Because even though 2009 had come and gone and people weren't wearing eyewear, it was going to happen, and it's still going to happen, and there's been plenty of validation that it's going to happen. And we could talk more about that in future episodes. But Microsoft didn't give MicroVision any credit. And I couldn't believe it. I remember I asked my girlfriend at the time, come over and watch this presentation that Microsoft's going to give. They're going to unveil this technology, this HoloLens 2. It's going to be amazing. And sure enough, they start the presentation with the MicroVision scanning mirror, and there's a laser going off of it, and that's like, it's like, oh, right there it is. And I said, oh my God, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that something? Here we finally arrived, right? We are the core technology that makes a product possible in the most important product segment for the future, for the biggest company in the world next to Apple, I guess. It did not occur to me that the customer would refuse to acknowledge the contribution that MicroVision had made to making that product possible. And there's a few reasons for that, which I may talk about in future episodes as well. But in any case, they didn't want to give MicroVision any credit. MicroVision stock suffered. The company had more rifts. They pivoted to laser projection display with finger tracking, so you could do interactivity, which is an awesome thing too, and maybe eventually something will come out with that. Then the customer left them high and dry. So I don't know what's worse, being part of a product and not being acknowledged, or being strung along for an extended period of time, making a bunch of prototypes, and then having a customer leave you at the altar. But in any case, after that happened, then they brought in Sumit. And Sumit had been at the company for a little while as a, I think, chief operating officer or technology officer type of role. And so he took over as CEO, and he immediately said, I'm pivoting the company to automotive lidar. Okay, automotive lidar. Great, I'm in. And, that was, I think, February or sometime early 2020. And over the last 5 years, they've created the Maven, which has the best resolution and range in the market for automotive lidar. They've purchased Eyewear, which has the solid-state flash-based lidar sensors that also has some perception software to be able to determine what it is the sensor's looking at. They didn't pay much for Eyewear. They pay some money on an ongoing basis for the employees. But if you think about it, if Eyewear turns out to be a revenue driver for the company in a serious way, you could look back at that acquisition and say that was very, very smart. So we'll see, and we'll talk about that hopefully in future episodes. But in any case, Sumit took over. He's developing the technology. He bought Eyewear. He turned the company into sort of a half German, half US company. And then very recently they brought on this Glenn DeVos to run the engineering department. And he's a longtime guy from Aptiv and Delphi, and he knows automotive technology integration and all this stuff. So a lot of stuff has happened. The markets, in my opinion, are starting to come to the point where autonomy and 3D spatial awareness are very, very important. And that includes these industrial segments that the company is targeting. So I feel like everything is happening, everything's coming together. The time is ripe. And now very recently the company has renewed its interest in the defense sector as a strategic market vertical to go pursue. And I say to that, thank goodness. That's a wonderful piece of news because it's the right segment for the technology for a variety of reasons. Now we have a new administration in place that's going to help invest in innovation in the U.S. For making our soldiers safer, our weapons more capable, and everything like that. So I think it's all coming together. I couldn't be more excited about the company and its position relative to the market. And I'm just very happy to be able to spend some time here chatting with all of you. And I look forward to talking with you again soon about MicroVision. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.